luxury jet from Qatar, foreign cash pouring into the Trump family crypto venture, pardons for political allies, questions over the Trump administration's alleged corruption have moved out of the spotlight as President Trump stokes outrage over immigration and the LA protests. As my next guest writes, our political system is being transformed into something that no longer serves the people. Indeed, the United States is seemingly becoming just another country with a corrupt strongman personalizing and profiting from power. Powerful words. Joining us now, we have NBC News political contributor and former Deputy National Security Advisor in the Obama administration, Ben Rhodes. Ben, welcome. Let's get right into your piece because you write the dam is breaking and Americans are farther downriver than we seem to understand. Explain what you mean by that.
What I mean is that we tend to think of corruption as kind of isolated instances of politicians enriching themselves. You know, there's some gold bars exchanged for some favors, as was the case with Bob Menendez, things of that nature. I think with Trump, what we're seeing is this systematic corruption of the entire U.S. government to serve his personal interests. And so the examples I give are you have tariffs, which are a very powerful tool in the hands of a president. It allows him to turn the dial up or down in terms of economic pressure in other countries. And you have a 46% tariff announced on Vietnam, and lo and behold, during the pause to negotiate trade deals, a $1.5 billion golf course is announced in Vietnam for the Trump Organization with Eric Trump there. Or you have the Emiratis putting $2 billion into Trump's venture, and then you have the Trump administration approving the export of some very sensitive artificial intelligence and advanced semiconductors to the UAE. So what you're seeing here is using the awesome power of the federal government to routinely enrich yourself, enrich your family, enrich your cronies. This is what we've seen in Russia. This is what we've seen in Hungary. This is what we've seen in Turkey. So it's not an unfamiliar playbook. What is unfamiliar, though, is someone with the awesome power of the U.S. presidency doing it.
So you write that a mobilization of the American people is the best check on this administration's corruption. But as Peter Baker recently noted in the New York Times, since these corrupt practices are playing out openly without formal investigations or consequences, they have become normalized, resulting in limited public outrage. So if mass mobilization doesn't happen, Ben, what other guardrails are there?
There are none. And I think we have to be candid about that because without any oversight from Congress, which is not going to happen from Republican Congress, with the Supreme Court that has said essentially that the president is immune from committing crimes while he's president in his official duties, the only guardrails are really public pressure or journalistic pressure. And I think for that to happen, it's not just the outrage. We tend to focus on how much money's coming in or that the plane's coming in. I think we need to connect dots for people that this is going to hurt their lives, that if the tariffs become a tool of some kind of enrichment or just a tool of power for Trump to control, well, prices are going to go up for people and the economy is going to be more volatile and people aren't going to be able to plan for their small businesses. Or if there are services that don't serve Trump's personal interests in some fashion, a rural healthcare clinic, for instance, that's going to be deprioritized, as we see in this quote-unquote big, beautiful bill, relative to tax cuts for people like Trump and his cronies. That you have to convey to people that it's not just that they're getting rich, because I think a lot of Americans become so cynical, they just assume that's what happens. But that, in fact, their interests are being deprioritized relative to Trump's interests and those around him.
I'm glad you've said all that and given air to it. Let me ask your thoughts on what's happening to LA and those who suggest this is a distraction from almost exactly what you have just discussed with regard to the Trump administration.
I get that, but actually, Alex, what I'd say is I think it's connected because what I'm talking about is a kind of personalization of the control of the U.S. government. I, the president, control tariffs. I, the president, control where these technologies going. I'm going to use those for my interest. What's so scary about LA, where I'm talking to you from, I'm only pretty close to where this is taking place, where the Marines are literally deployed, is it's a personalization of the U.S. military. This is the institution, I worked in national security, that is supposed to be the most distant from the personal or political interests of the President of the United States. And it's not a coincidence to me, Alex, that the same week that we see him deploying over the objections of local leaders who are supposed to be the ones to request deployments, him deploying these troops to Los Angeles, we're going to see a parade, on Trump's birthday of the U.S. military. He's showing us what a lot of strongman leaders around the world have showed us, which is they don't see the military as somehow distinct from their own interests. He sees it as an extension, and that is what should be so scary to people, and that is corruption. That's a form of corruption. That's saying that the U.S. military doesn't serve as an independent institution representing the American people. It's something that can be deployed to service Trump's domestic policy agenda on immigration, or something that can be used to exalt Trump on his birthday. That's what should scare people, because that can go in worse directions than we've already seen.
It is sobering just to listen to you, but you make a lot of sense, Ben Rhodes. As always, we'll see you again. Thank you much.